Hello, everyone. Good to see people are rolling in. You've been waiting in the waiting room, just waiting for us to come on screen. Some of you are very familiar with how these work, and some of you, this is maybe your first time here. The three of us on the screen cannot see you. We can only see each other. And there is a chat feature during this meeting. And so, first thing I'd love to do is have people hop in the chat and just let us know where you're listening in from today. We're going to share some information, some thoughts and things for you. And then later in the program, we're going to switch and take some questions from you about this overall topic. So, uh, Heather and Jamie, the first thing that I'm hoping that we could talk about, because our topic today is about the more social time of year that many of us find has maybe already started, holidays, vacations, celebrations, more family get-togethers. It's light out until 9 o'clock at night, so lots more social things happening. And how do we manage that while keeping our fasting going, keeping our, food on track and all those things? So the first thing that Heather and Jamie and I talked about doing is a little bit of an overall mindset, and then we'll talk more specifically. And I wanted to start with this one mindset, and I hope it's big, but I won't take a lot of time to say it. I want to encourage you to have a summer that you don't have to recover from, because I think too many of us have done that. We launch into the summer and we're like, well, it's summer. And then in September, we feel like we've got whatever the piper to pay or whatever that saying is, that we have to recover from it. Bigger picture, I want to encourage all of us to have a life you don't need to recover from, a summer you don't need to recover from, a holiday season you don't have to recover from, and vacations that you don't have to recover from. So we're going to talk more details about that, but to me, that's an overarching mindset. Heather or Jamie, you want to hop in with one?
I was going to say what Terry just said, so I need to regroup. So, Jamie, you're next.
Uh-oh. Um, my overall mindset for things like summer activities and holidays is really remembering while you're at the event, while you're on the vacation, while you're at the barbecue, the party. It's not about the food, it's about the people. It's about the connections that you're making. If you're traveling, it's about the beautiful new sights that you're seeing. Um, and that being the focus of all of our summers, finding joy in all the other things that are out there during these events. So,
I love that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there are two pieces that I think kind of tie into what Terry and Jamie just said. And the first piece, going back to not having a summer that you want to recover from, is sometimes when we're looking on the horizon of the summer, we start to think about all of those things and we bring all of those events. We start listing them in our heads and we start thinking, oh my God, I have this, I have this, I have this, I have this. It's all going to be hard and terrible. And, we start to like put it all on our shoulders right now. It's all of summer just right there on us. And can we live all of summer at once? Do we want to? No, we want to take all of those events and throw them back into the future where they belong, and we will meet them there, right? Like Jamie is very much our mindful coach, right? And so we stay right here in the present where we are, and we take these events moment by moment. So we roll up into these events one at a time. And how I manage events is exactly what Terry said about managing all of summer. We manage that event as how do I want to feel on the drive home? Like, how do I want to feel tomorrow morning when I do my daily scale check-in? How do I want to feel then? Right? Do I want to set future Heather up to feel good, or do I want to be nasty and not have her set up to do good? So that's one piece, is that we cannot live all of summer at once. And so we shouldn't freak out about it all at once. We should take it event by event by event. And then the second piece that I think is important that Terri also alluded to, which is this whole idea that it's not fun if we're not eating things that make us sick. I mean, like if I'm not eating crap food, then it ain't gonna be fun. And that's basically what Jamie was saying as well, right? What makes for a good summer? Does, like is the only thing that the only way that we can celebrate with our family and the sunshine and the better weather and the cute outfits or whatever is the only way we can do that is with food, right? Like that mindset and that, kind of hedonistic, right? Hedonistic hunger is what Dr. Fung would describe that as that, that's where we're getting the joy from our life. That's where we're getting, kind of all the pleasure is all wrapped up into the food. Then we're missing the forest for the trees.
Mm.
And so kind of pulling back on that mindset of, kind of what does make for a good life. And I would say being healthy and connected would or be two huge pillars of a good life. And part of being healthy is not eating foods that make us sick.
And as both of you have highlighted, for me, this has been a big shift over the, last few years or whatever, but really getting to a point where I check in with myself while I'm at the event. Will having this problematic food and all of the consequences that I know it brings me, will that make me have more fun here? Will that make me look back and say, wow, that was a great birthday? No, it's about laughing with the family or friends or loved ones or whatever, whomever I'm celebrating with. I still check in about that. I ask myself, would I have had more fun tonight if I ate that dessert? And I can guarantee you my answer is always no. Like, I'm actually always glad that I didn't afterward. In the moment while I'm watching other people enjoying it, that's a little more challenging. But as you just said, Heather, I just kind of think about how will I feel in a few hours? How will I feel longer term? But remember, those of you who are in conversations about the lower brain doesn't care about later. Lower brain wants to feel good right now. This is why we've got to also keep this part of our brain engaged during those vacations and events because it's not worth paying for later with more pain, inflammation, horrible sleep, all of those things. Those few moments of the joy of the food does not outweigh the consequence and the price you pay after.
Totally. That's where I always bring in that magic question. Is it worth it?
Mm-hmm.
Is it worth what's going to happen tomorrow and how I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
feel? When you're eyeing that table, is it worth it? Most of the time, it's not.
Yeah. I think another piece to that, Terry said, like am I gonna wish that I hadn't? And like, has anybody ever driven home and been like, I wish I'd eaten more of those chips. Ooh, I wish I'd had more dessert. I wish I had more bread or what have you. Like, it's kind of like when you're going to the gym and you don't want to, like, no matter how many times I, have like pushed myself to go to the gym, going in the door, right? They say that the heaviest weight at the gym is the front door, right? Like you might not want to at all, but how many times do you leave the gym wishing you hadn't? Like how many times do you take a healthy walk and wish you hadn't, unless you're injured, right? Like that's just not how this works. And so, that same thing applies. Like how many times are you going to go to an event and eat healthy and wish you had made a sicker choice and wish you had eaten worse than what you had? It's just not likely. The other thing that I have been asking these questions to, my weight loss groups recently, my maintenance group and my weight loss group recently, which is, okay, so, tell me how it feels to you to restrict those foods. Like what goes through your head when you think of not having the dessert, not having the chips, not having the full barbecue experience or whatever? Like how does it make you feel to be restricted from those refined carbohydrates? And then how does it make you feel when you actually eat them? Like at the other side of the event, when you have had every single bite of every single thing that you wanted to have, how do you feel? And the most common answer I get is bad and bad, right? You're gonna lose either way. If you eat the foods that make you sick, if you don't eat the foods that you want to eat because you're restricted, right? It's a no-win. That's how addiction works. It's no win. And so if you're not going to win anyway, why not take the path toward health? And part of why we're not winning is because of the framing that we have around those foods. We have glorified them, we've called them treats, indulgences, and all these wonderful things, and not things that, if eaten in excess, is toxic to us. And so focusing not so much on the foods we can't have, which we can because we're grown adults and we can eat whatever we want, but really kind of changing that approach to thinking about what are the foods that make me feel good? If I eat those at the barbecue, when I leave, I'm going to feel great and I'm going to feel proud of myself and I'm going to feel healthier and nourished. I'm going to leave that barbecue not only more connected to people, but I'm also going to leave it healthier because I just gave myself something nourishing. And so focusing on what you get to have as opposed to, oh, there's all these foods that I can't have. Sure you can. Sure you can. And you can have all the sick consequences that come with it, right? Not to be like really aggressive about food right now, but I'm feeling it. And so you get that. Congratulations, everybody. That's all I got.
Yay. I was also thinking as we move into some, kind of some specifics about what that might look like for us. One of the things that I often hear in my own mind used to be a thought process, and I hear this often from people in the community, and I hear this from clients, is that mentality that, but you know what, Terry, life is short. And one
It's
argument I have is
even shorter
life is a lot less short when we
if
take
you
better
eat.
care of ourselves. So we could make it shorter by eating those things. But also, I think once upon a time that mentality fit better because you only had one big family event over every 6 months. And I start listening to people. Friday night, they've got cards night with their neighbors. Saturday night, they've got book club. Sunday, it's brunch after church. It's event after event after event after event. So there's no, I'll do it right after because there's another event. I've talked with some clients like, well, when we get back from that trip, I'm home for about 4 days and then we're taking off for that trip. So for many of us nowadays, it's not even like this is such a rare thing that I'm going to just open up and allow a little more freedom for myself because you've got back to back events and family gatherings and special occasions and your grandkids or your kids, track meet where everyone goes out to eat junk food afterward. It's not occasional, it's constant. And if you've got the mindset that this is unique, it's not anymore. It's one right after the other. And so, in that example, what I encourage people choose the ones that it is worth, expanding a little bit. I don't just mean your seat or your waist, but expanding your choices a little because if you do it at every one, you're never going to make up for it. There's no way to compensate for that. And we work way too hard with fasting and other choices to blow it by constantly making those choices.
Yeah, and to that point, Terry, I think that also for many people, I don't know these people, that is so not me, that has that much of a life. I do not. But if people have so many events, sometimes it's even more in your head than in the reality. So what I also suggest is when you know life is getting busier, go back to old school basics. I love using the good old calendar, a real calendar, like those paper ones. I still have mine. And think about on a Sunday, really look at what you have during the week. Because you may be thinking, oh, the week's kind of a bust because I have so much stuff. But when you have it on paper on the calendar in front of you, that might not be the case. And there may still be a lot of time within there that you have to do your plan, to do your fasting and plug it in. So I'll put everything that I have socially on my calendar first and then see what it really looks like. And that's a great time, to your point, evaluate which event may be worth it. The wedding may be worth it. The place you go after your kid's soccer game, the local dive, not so much. And then plug in your schedule for the week around what you have. And then I think when you see, wow, I really can make some progress this week. I do have time for 324s.
Mhm.
It makes you feel more in control and it helps you really keep on your plan, I feel.
Absolutely.
I love that, Jamie. I love like, kind of the whole concept of okay, right? Like there is, a horizon of things coming up for us, and we think in our head like, ooh, that special thing, that creme brulee or whatever is my drug of choice. All right. Like I know it's gonna be there, but so I'm not gonna waste like store-bought cake and kind of like gross, don't even want a potato salad or whatever, at these other events when I know that that one is there. One of the things that I have noticed with my clients that wear CGMs and that weigh regularly is there tends to be about a 4 to 7 day time frame that it takes to recover from, a carb bolus, if you will, like one of these events. And, I think that people don't do that math. They're looking at, how much did I lose this month or how much did I lose this week? And they're not doing the math of, okay, well, if I had this thing on the weekend and that put a 4 to 7 day pause on my weight loss, and then I got another thing on another weekend, when you going to lose weight? When you going to give your body the opportunity to tap into body fat for fuel if you're constantly recovering from, insulinogenic meals? There's no time for it. And that's what Terry was talking about, right? Dunbar's number says that we have 150 people that we're like friends with or acquainted with, right? They all have birthdays. And that's a lot of birthdays. So if we're eating cake every other day, y'all, we don't got time to lose weight in there, right? And so, one of the other things that I was thinking about with the global mindset of summer being a tough time is that, calm seas don't make for skillful sailors. And so, great, you've got all of these challenges, planted in the future where they belong, not right now. You don't have to carry them all. But as they come up, it's like, are you ready for another challenge? Can you go to that event and to that situation and be the kind of person that doesn't eat all the crap? Because let me just tell you, as someone who runs a maintenance program, if you want to be able to keep this weight off, friend, you got to be able to navigate that, not just during the acute weight loss phase, but into maintenance. You got to be the kind of person that doesn't eat that at every meal. If you do, you will continue to be at the higher weight that you're trying to get away from. So, every single social event, every restaurant meal is an opportunity to show yourself what you're made of and to see if you can't be the kind of person that doesn't eat that way anymore. Live against the grain. Don't eat like everybody else, and you won't be as unhealthy as everybody else. Start to be the kind of person that makes healthy choices at as many events as possible to give yourself the best possible odds to get this thing done and to stay there.
I think that's super important. I know each of us coaches highlights this in different ways, but that idea of every step of this is about maintenance. It's not like go do some work and then eventually you will land at this promised land of maintenance and then you'll just magically stay there because we all know we've worked really hard to get there before and we didn't stay there. Why is that? Because we didn't change exactly what you just said, Heather. If I don't become someone who doesn't eat that or drink that at every social occasion, I will not maintain. Regardless of how hard I worked along the way, I won't maintain. Because as we've already highlighted, there will always be events where that beverage and that food is available. And so we've got to change how we do it. I love the point you made about the 4 to 7 day pause that happens because people will come to me and say, but I've been fasting. Yeah, but you've mitigated the benefits of that by the excursions on weekends and social events and vacations and things. So another strategy that I often encourage people to think about, let's say it is I'm going for a 4 day weekend with my family at my in-laws' house, or I'm going on a trip to Italy and I really want those desserts or something. Kind of like what you were saying, Jamie, about looking at your calendar. I encourage people even to think about, look, I'm going to be there for 8 days. if I start eating off track on day one, woo, that is going to be a lot of recovery when I get home. But if I wait and have that special thing that I really want to have on day 7, and I get back on a plane and come home the next day, it's contained. Now, that doesn't make it good for me. It doesn't mean that my body's not going to have to recover. But for many of us, once we open the floodgate at the beginning, it's really hard to shut that floodgate. So even postponing those decisions until
Yeah.
later in the trip or, the 5-day family thing, wait until the last night to have your aunt's, you know, secret recipe dessert because you're going to go home the next day and you're back into your own food environment.
Huge. You taught me that one when you were my coach, and I live by that one now. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Have it the very last day. Love that.
I love it.
I want to talk about that whole concept of being great on vacation and then coming home. Okay? Because I literally just had a client that we talked to about this. She went to Europe, I mean, still had the things, but because there's so much movement, that can really mitigate the damage of kind of off-road excursions, if you will, and use your terminology. And so, like, she came home flat, right? No gain, which is a huge accomplishment for vacations. I happen to have an absolute hate in my heart for cruises. I don't want any of my clients to go on cruises ever. But these walking vacations, people can handle it as long as they don't bring those food behaviors home, which is what happened to her, right? She did great in that. She stayed flat because of all that movement, right? Because of all those postprandial after meal walks that mitigated the damage of those carbs. 20, 30,000 steps a day is going to, kind of hold things off a little bit. But if we bring those food behaviors back home with us and we got a taste for it, right? The insulin beast has moved itself back into our house, even though we're in our home environment and we should be eating how we ate before we left, that can be problematic. So, one thing that we teach at the fasting method is when we're going on vacation, even if we are, pure, right? Like we do the very best while we're eating, we should still have a reentry plan. There should still be fat fasting foods waiting for us in our freezer or our refrigerator so that as we just assume, right? Like fail on the side of under expecting, right? Just assume it's going to be bad. Just assume you're bringing that insulin beast home with you in your carry-on. And when you get home, go in, know that, okay, the fat fasting food is there for me. I got plenty of bacon, right? I can manage myself. I'm going straight into that regardless. And then I can, kick the insulin beast back out of my life and get myself back on track. So vacations are disruptive in a lot of ways. You're out of your environment, you have all these temptations. You might go there with the expectation that you're not going to stay on track. Well, however you do it, just have a re-entry plan so that that week doesn't become that month, which we see all the time. We see that after vacations and we see that after holidays all the time. And that's what Terri started the meeting with. Like, let's not need to recover come September, October, November, because guess what's right around the corner? If we plan to recover from summer in the fall, y'all forget what fall is like, right? So we need to, kind of have these moments of resiliency, right? Like I know, if I'm off for a week, I know I'm going to get back on as quickly as possible. That time frame of getting back on track is critical so that we're not stretching those 4 to 7 days of recovery into, 4 to 7 weeks of recovery.
Mhm. I'm going to add something that came up as we were listening. Someone talked a little bit about the pressure from social. These are social events often.
Yeah.
You're traveling with family or friends, you're at a neighborhood cookout. Listen, wherever you go, there always will be food pushers. Now, whether they are delightfully pushing food or pretty nasty about pushing food, they're going to exist everywhere. And without sounding harsh to each of us, I want to really encourage you are beyond peer pressure at this stage in your life. If you were 10, I would be like, oh, honey, I know those kids on the playground. Yeah, I know, but here's what we can do. But listen, if you want your health and you want your body to be more optimized, it doesn't matter what your neighbor thinks you should eat at that event. It doesn't matter what your brother thinks is okay to eat on the cruise. You know what works, you know what doesn't work. And then I think there's always this level in my mind of, some food pushers are a little gentle. They're like, "Oh, you should have some of what so and so brought. It's really good." And you say, "Oh, thanks. I'll remember to grab that later." And you just don't go get it. There are some food pushers who are a little more persistent. "Well, here, I saw that you didn't get any, so I brought it to you." Oh, okay. What am I going to do now? I really believe, and this gets complicated for many of us, but we've got to start to learn to have our boundaries with people and to say, that was so thoughtful of you. I'm not eating that tonight. What are they going to do? Make you eat it? I hope not. Again, we're all at an age where that shouldn't be happening, right? And if people still push, I bring on some more layers. I say things like, you know what? My glucose levels cannot handle that. How about if you eat it because it looks really good? I'm so glad that so and so brought it. It's beautiful, but my glucose can't handle it. And if they push one more time, like, "Oh, but your glucose can handle it this one time, it won't really matter." Then I bring out the big guns. Jamie, you're already laughing because I know you know what I'm gonna say. This is where I say, I know, but the explosive diarrhea that I develop when I eat that, I don't want to do that here. They're going to walk away with that dessert in their hand very quickly. They're going to get away. So to me, I have a kind of hierarchy. Light food pushing, I can just be real kind. If they are persistent, I get a little more direct. I talk about health consequences. I talk about I don't sleep well when I do that. Now they're kind of a jerk if they want me not to sleep well and have a glucose spike. And if they still push, then I gross them out and get them to shut it down. So there are many ways to not take that. Some of you have had friends, in-laws, whoever who told you how to raise your kids, and you didn't do what they said. You said, "Thank you so much," and you did your own sleep plan. You have friends who think they have an expert knowledge of how you should invest your money, and you don't do it. They tell you what church you should belong to, and you don't do it. You don't change your beliefs just because your neighbor said, "Hey, this is what you should think." Same with food. So let go of that peer pressure. No one's inside your body. No one's going to deal with your health long term but you. So it doesn't matter what they say. You can be gracious and, put them off that way, or you can be a little more forceful if you need to.
Yeah, I think maybe baseline, it should be if you're not willing to give me one of your kidneys and drive me to dialysis 3 days a week, then your opinion doesn't have any bearing. But nobody that is willing to do either of those things would be pushing food on you, to Terry's point. So yeah,
Mhm.
100%. What they get out of me, because I'm not as nice as Terry, is, "Oh, did you want to hear my entire diatribe about low carb and intermittent fasting and how that's the best way to lose weight? Because I'd be happy to share it with you." And that's what they're getting from me. But I know people aren't as aggressive as I am, just in general. But yeah, it goes back to taking agency over your body. One of the things that I like to say is that if you were allergic to peanuts, you wouldn't eat it to be polite and be like, "Yeah, I got my EpiPen with me. I'm good. Somebody have 911 ready." Like you just wouldn't. So what goes into your body is always your choice, and being willing to and that's a big piece of what I talk about to a lot, is managing other people, right? Like living, like I said, living against the grain requires some audacity, on our part. And we need to be exceptional. We need to be willing to stand out a little bit. And that requires us to be brave and to take agency over our body and our actions. And that requires us to have some, uncomfortable conversations. There is a lot that is required of weight loss. It's not common for people to successfully lose a significant amount of weight. And it's not common for them to maintain that weight loss. So you need to live uncommonly in order for you to get there. And there's a price that needs to be paid. And so that price, we just think in terms of not eating certain foods or getting our fasts in. But no, that price is turning down the tortilla chips at a Mexican restaurant and the fresh hot bread in an Italian restaurant, or even not going to an Italian restaurant. It's turning down your aunt's, hot chocolate chip cookies that she offered you. I'm sorry that I'm triggering everyone in this room at this moment. The point being, if we want something exceptional, we need to act exceptionally, and that is a little bit uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to fast. It's uncomfortable to not eat whatever we want to eat whenever we want to. It's uncomfortable to have conversations with people about how we're eating and standing out and feeling embarrassed by it. It's uncomfortable to have fasting side effects. Like, we got to be willing to pay a whole lot of prices to get the benefits that we want from this thing. It's not, without cost.
And I think that goes back to what you shared earlier, Heather, because the flip side of this is it's also really uncomfortable to not go to this social event because you don't feel comfortable in any of the clothes that you have, or to not go to the beach for that vacation because you wouldn't show up anywhere not wearing a parka and ski pants or something. Um, there's always a trade-off, and many of us have been used to um, paying the price on the side of not being comfortable in our body, having extra doctor's appointments, extra medications. And what we tell ourselves is because these other things that Heather just listed are too hard. And we don't pay attention to the things that we're already giving up because of these challenges. That is hard too. We're just used to it. We've gotten used to, I can't even tell you how many times I look at pictures with family and friends now and I'm not in them because I never wanted to be in the
Oh.
photo. I can't go back and, draw myself into those photos. I paid a high price to be unwell and to be in a body that I wasn't comfortable with. So now these smaller prices that I pay feel so much more worth it to me. But that's a big shift. And as Heather said, it's like that, if you want significant outcomes, you have to be willing to face some discomfort in that trade-off.
I think it takes practice and it takes a while. I mean, I am a little bit more passive, the Buddhist in me, but things that I have done, because for me, and I would guess some other people could relate to this, it's hard to be that direct for me. But it's also really important for me to take care of myself. So what I have done in that situation is, as opposed to being confrontational,
Mhm.
I've led with a little kindness. And I said, thank you, that's so kind of you. And I will maybe take the plate they've offered me, but then I turn around and watch the nearest trash can out of their view. Still taking care of myself, but in a way that feels more comfortable to me, because we all have those different levels. But I think that the base of it all is putting ourselves first and taking care of what nourishes us. So just another alternative.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm trying to get a little bit more Heather in me, but so far, I hear my guru saying, just be kind.
Meanwhile, I'm trying to get way more of you into me. So, yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
it's still about being kind to yourself, right? And taking care of yourself.
Mhm.
And yeah, that food is not going to be shipped to Bangladesh. But I'm so old, that's where food was being shipped when I was young. My parents said, it's not going to be, guys. You can throw it away.
That's right. And this is a tried and true thing, just to kind of keep in mind. It's a mindset thing of, um, I have found, and I've heard many, many, many people over the years at TFM share this. The more comfortable they are with their decision, the less other people's pressure means anything.
Yeah,
If I'm really comfortable with how I'm raising my kids, I don't care what my neighbor says I should be doing. So the more comfortable I am with the fact that I'm not going to eat from the dessert table tonight, I don't care how many people tell me I should definitely eat that dessert.
yeah.
It becomes less important to me. And what I find is the less important it is to me, the less tense I look about it, the less other people care. So if I say, I know it looks delicious, I can't believe it, you should get that recipe, they're not going to care whether I'm eating it. I went out with 7 other people a few weeks ago. We went to a Mexican restaurant before going to a concert. It was a fasting day for me. So we were all sitting around this big booth. I'm on one side of the booth, and the server came by, took the orders, went around, had everyone, got to me. I said, oh, no, thanks. I didn't even say anything. Goes right past me. Finally, it gets to the other side of the table, and one woman says, how about you? Like, she thought maybe the woman skipped me or something. She's like, how about you? I'm like, no one said a word during the meal. They all had all their food, all their beverages. I had a coffee. No one mentioned, Terry, how come you're not eating tonight? Do you want something? Do you want to try this? Not one person said a thing
Mhm.
because I was engaging. I was having fun with them. I wasn't like, "Oh, your food looks so good." They didn't care that I wasn't eating. So I think, as Jamie said, even that takes a lot of practice. It feels a little weird the first time says, how come you're not eating tonight? You know, but the more comfortable I am in those situations, the less they push.
It's really true. Really true.
Yeah. I mean, it really is about being willing to, kind of relate differently to the people around you, just like we're relating differently with food, right? That it goes hand in hand because we are never going to run out of social occasions, and they all have problematic food.
Mhm.
I've yet to go to a social occasion that didn't have something, tempting there. Like I've never been to a low carb party.
You didn't live in
I don't
LA.
even know that I've thrown a low carb party. Now that I mention it, I'm part of the problem, maybe. Yeah.
You are
So
definitely part of the problem.
Growing up in LA, you saw all kinds of weird stuff like that.
I need to get myself out west, right here in Pennsylvania. They don't be throwing any low carb parties, although they do charcuterie boards, which they call a Dutch platter, which is, that's pretty low carb. Yeah, there you go. Processed meats and cheese. Anyway,
I also want to
yeah.
share this about holidays, special events, occasions, and whatnot. As much as we're all in some way making a big deal of it, I also want to encourage not to overthink every single one. And I think the more practice you get, the easier this gets. But I'm going to share just a little personal example. We went last night to a taste testing for our wedding. And you can imagine, this was not a keto wedding taste testing. This was not a no sugar wedding taste testing experience. One, I'm thinking what I eat that night and what I eat in 3 months at the wedding, I'm not going to sweat every detail of. I'm not going to count the carbs. I'm not going to say, oh no, we can't have any carb food on the plates. Like it's going to be what it's going to be. I can make the best choices possible, but I'm not going to overthink it. The one thing I didn't do last night at the taste testing, because this one is really significant for me, I didn't sample the desserts. They did bring 3 full dessert plates to our table. My partner enjoyed this part. And I didn't try any of them. I asked, how are they? Do you like them? But that's a um, can't think of like a no-go for me. Like there's a boundary for me. So did I have some carbs and some of the other foods that I wouldn't normally eat maybe at home? Yeah, I did. And there's no guilt and no shame. But I also have my boundary, and for me, that's no sugar. And so I didn't engage the desserts. So I also think the same way for the actual event. There are going to be some things on that menu that are a little carbier than what I normally eat. What am I going to eat the next day? Trust me, I'm going to have a high fat, high protein breakfast the next day after that meal. And I'm not going to have the cake because that is a no-go for me. So in some ways, not to start worrying now in June what you're going to do for Christmas dinner. It's okay. It's one meal. What you do on all sides of that one meal, to me, is even more important than what you decide in that one meal.
Yeah.
Mic drop.
It is. That's a really good
Billion
point,
percent.
Terry. because you've got your boundary, and I think that's also really important. You know what your absolute no is,
Hmm.
and that can be a lifesaver going into these situations, knowing what's our bottom line
Yeah.
and
I think
honoring that.
that goes along with food rules, which I love.
Mhm.
You, Terry, recommended to me because Terry was both of our coaches. Glenn Livingston's book, Never Binge Again, and establishing for yourself some food rules. And I think that's a great idea coming into summer. Like, what are those going to be? A friend of mine said, that actually it was my personal trainer. I think he said that the recommendation when you go to a restaurant, it's like you can have the appetizer, the drink, or the dessert, but not two of
All three.
those, right?
Yeah.
And so setting something like that up. And then, also kind of, going into like setting your intention, for the vacation, for the party, like, what are my boundaries going to be for this? Like, alcohol is something that comes up a lot over the summer. It seems, more often than even the rest of the year. And, alcohol, in and of itself has some issues as far as depending on whether you're doing cocktails, depending on how much you have, and how it's metabolized, itself. But then what it leads to after is oftentimes choices that we're, kind of not so great, feel so great about, because it lowers inhibitions. It doesn't get us to do things we don't want to do, but it sure does pave the way to get us to do things that we do. And so, kind of deciding ahead of time, what rules am I going to set for myself so that like Terry said, come out the other side of this, feeling good about the choices that I made. So yeah, having boundaries I think can be really helpful. I think doing challenges can be really helpful. I love me a no sugar, no grains challenge. I offered that up to my weight loss group this month for the month of June, and I have a client that's going on vacation tomorrow. She's like, I'm taking it with me. I'm taking the challenge with me to Barbados. So like, like wherever you go, there you are. And wherever we go, there are going to be options that are good choices for us. I was just in the most magical place on earth, the happiest place on earth, in Florida, and I'm currently in weight loss mode myself. I want to get from the higher end of my BMI to the lower end of my healthy BMI, and so I'm not making those choices. I'm not giving myself a week to recover from a trip like that, and so I went into every meal. How do I want to feel about this tomorrow? What are the consequences if I make that choice versus this choice? And will I feel good about this trip on the other side of it if I come home heavier and have to recover? And I didn't. I lost weight during that trip. And it's because of those choices at every single meal. One thing I will say though is that sometimes it's more expensive to eat low carb, especially at a place that is throwing carbs at you at much cheaper prices. And so you've got to decide for yourself what your health's worth. And I was willing to, pay whatever price I needed to eat foods that served me, where I didn't feel restricted, where I felt good and nourished and didn't feel sick.
I also think that and help me tell you what this psychological name of it is, or maybe it's decision fatigue. Going to those boundaries and food rules. We're going into a vacation or an event with our boundary in place, our food rule. I'm not going
Yeah.
to have that. How great is that then that at every single meal, every single next minute, you're not having to make that decision over and over and deplete yourself. You're going in with that, boom, okay, it's done. I'm not having that.
Yeah.
It's really freeing at the end of the day.
And I think especially, Jamie, if you work on that from the perspective of this is my identity versus
Yes.
this is the restriction I have to take with me. And one way
Yeah.
that I try and illustrate this for people in the community is listen, if you identify as a member of a particular religious or spiritual practice or faith, I never once have had a friend say, I am Methodist through and through, but I'm going to Jamaica next week. I'm leaving that stuff behind. I'm going to be whatever I want to be there. No, they take that with them because that is their identity. So the more you work on creating those ways of navigating how you eat as part of who you are versus this is the rule you have to live with, if it becomes more who you are or how you do this, there aren't decisions to be made. I don't go into a restaurant pining over the pasta page because I just don't eat pasta. It doesn't work for me, it doesn't work for my body. I just don't even look at that page now. And I don't feel bad about it. I don't feel like I'm being restricted. I'm like, oh my gosh, look what they have over here. And I find the things that I already know work for me. So it's an identity
Mhm.
versus I'm carrying my restriction on vacation with me. Take
Love
your
that.
identity with you. So, and I know for some of us, this might be the first season of vacations and social gatherings, but I think as you keep working through it, it becomes more natural. This is how I do this. I don't even have to think about how I'm going to manage this on vacation because it's how I manage it all the time.
Yeah.
Terry told me on my intake, vegans don't eat steak on vacation. Day one, y'all, before we even started coaching, she started coaching from the second we had an intake, but yeah, like that, and that, I mean, that resonates with a lot of people because,
Uh-huh.
true. Like if you want
Yeah.
to be a healthy person, healthy people act healthy all the time, right? They don't
Mhm.
just act healthy when it's convenient and when they don't got a lot going on and there isn't, too much happening, then I'll be healthy. Well, that ain't enough time and you're not really a healthy person if that's the only time you do it, right? There's a threshold you got to meet to be a healthy person. And that requires you to be a healthy person on some not maybe like little side detours a little bit, right? It's a percentage thing, but for the most part, we need to be healthy most
Mhm.
of the time, and that's that identity piece. And I don't think anybody in this room, Terry just admitted to eating some carbs. Did you hear that? Did anybody hear that? I was paying attention. Like when I went to Disney and I took pictures of all my food, one of them says that I ate one French fry, and one of my clients today is like, "I saw you ate a fry. I thought you didn't eat carbs." What? What? Right? He's like, no, I'm just glad you're human. Like, are you kidding me? Right? I wasn't
Yeah.
obese for 40 plus years because I'm not human, right? And so, yeah, that piece of kind of all or nothing can really get in our heads a little bit. I am a fan of abstinence for foods because I can control the first bite, but none of the rest of them. And so that's how I try to live. But there's a spectrum for everyone. And so you got to find your food rules, your spectrum, what you can handle and stay healthy. But I want you to be honest with yourself, right? I think many of us would like to be the kind of person that moderate, even if we've got decades of experience that indicates that we aren't. And so, eventually it's time to come to terms with the fact that maybe you just can't handle those foods anymore and you need to let them go. I've had clients that have been okay on vacation and getting themselves back on track, and then I've had clients that have sent them into a spiral that took months to recover from, 20, 30 pounds later. And so, if know thyself.
Mhm. I want to go back to what Jamie said too. Someone wrote in the chat about it, and I think this is so wise. Getting beyond the decision fatigue does require to start moving into, and the way the person wrote it in the chat is decide what kind of person you want to
Mm.
be. Because then it's, when I walk into a Mexican restaurant, I don't have to decide, should I do well tonight or should I be bad tonight? I don't have that decision. It's very easy for me to go through that menu. But until we really create that identity, it's very easy to fall into decision fatigue because you feel like you've got a shield up at all times. You're like, okay, wait, not that, not that. But the more you create it as part of your identity, the less effort it takes to know what fits for you. So some of you, like I said, you may be earlier in the journey or into the journey, but haven't really gotten to this stage yet. It takes more energy to be deciding each time. So I appreciate that you brought that up, Jamie. It's a really important piece for most of us.
I live by I am statements, right? That really help with that new identity, making it
Mhm.
a regular practice. I am what you want to, just saying that over and over. And those affirmations can really help to embed
Mhm.
that.
And the flip side to that is also true, right? Be careful what you're affirming about yourself. I am a carb addict. I am a sugar addict. I
I know it
am,
has to be positive.
right?
Yeah.
I'm a
Yeah.
late night snacker.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'll have people, like, let's not, like, it's like, that whole
What you
saying,
want to become.
yes,
Yeah.
like, worry is praying for something you don't want to have happen. Like, let's focus on what we do want to have happen as opposed to what we don't.
And I think another basic skill that we talk a lot about at TFM, I think applies here is celebrating when you eat well at that event. Give
Yeah.
yourself some props for doing that. That took some work and say things to yourself. We all have an internal dialogue going on all the time. Like, thank you. I really appreciate that I did that. I'm really pleased that I found a way to make this meal healthy for me.
Mhm.
Reinforcing that. Because I think in the past, I know for me at least, in old diet mentality, I got a kick out of figuring out how I could bend the rules. Look what I got away with. Well, guess what? If I had worn a CGM at that time, which I didn't even know about at the time, but I wasn't getting away with anything.
Yeah.
I was playing and having fun, and then for many years paying the consequence. And so getting out of that, what can I get away with because I'm at a social event or I'm on vacation, and more, what choice do I feel good about making?
Oh, and on that note, which is so common, is this idea that we get in our head where we go in best intentions. I'm going to be so good, right? As if it's some moral, failing if we're bad and eat different foods, right? It's not morality, it's science and physiology. But when somebody has that one thing and in their head, they're like, I blew it. And then they proceed to have all the things, right? Like, and not, not even try to stop and mitigate the damage and be done with some, but not all. And so, one thing that I try to persistently remind my clients, the community at large, is what Dr. Fung teaches, which is the dose makes the poison. I think that's Aristotle, actually. That goes back, pretty far. The dose makes the poison. The quantity matters, right? Okay, you let carbs pass your lips, like, let's not hell have all the carbs pass our lips. So
Yeah.
that idea, like, I blew it. And sometimes it's not even just that one, meal. Sometimes it's like I blew the vacation. So now I've blown 7 days worth of eating because of one bite of one. What? What? We have control over every single bite. I know the hormones make it harder, and that's why I avoid some of those foods. So I get that our control starts to dissipate. But if you've got any left, please don't talk yourself into a binge just because there was like Terry says, don't slash the other three tires, right? You had it. Okay. Hope it was good. Now, have some steak, have some salad, right? Crowd it out, and see if you can't be that resilient person that gets back in the saddle the second, that your brain allows you to.
Absolutely. All right. Well, ladies, we have talked so much that we're to the end. I hope those of you who had thoughts that you wanted to get across, you've been putting them in the chat. I have been following the chat pretty closely, and I think Jamie and Heather have been looking as well. So we're not going to do any Q&A for today, but there definitely will be another Coach's Corner meeting. Remember, you can interact with us all the time. We have some groups, obviously, in the community. And then obviously each of us does coaching. And so if you want to get to spend more time with Jamie and you need to absorb that, besides the meditation sessions and groups in the community, you can work with her as a coach. You can work with Heather as a coach. You can join one of Heather's longer 6-month programs and nail this stuff. You can work with me as a coach. You can join my 3-month class. There's so many ways you can get the support that you are seeking. So thank you all for being here today.
You
I wish
guys.
you a summer of, everything that you don't have to recover from because it's all just supporting you along the way.
Make
Thank
good
you,
choices,
everybody.
everybody.